Yo, what's going on? It's Greg Santos. Welcome to the Outlier Circle. If this is your first time joining me here today, what I do is I help isolated outliers who lack a powerful network of mentors and peers and help you create a world class network. If that sounds like you, go ahead, hit that subscribe button down below. Today, I'm going to be talking about something that really means a lot to me. January 26th, 2020, Kobe Bryant left his house for the last time with his daughter, Gianna. And he dies in a helicopter crash. Completely just rattles the entire planet. And I remember where I was. I remember what I was doing right before then. I know exactly what I was doing while it happened, because I was on a call at the time, and we got off the phone, and like 5 minutes later, my brother-in-law comes downstairs and he explains what happened. I'm like, oh my God, that is insane. And I ended up crying a couple times because of Kobe Bryant's death. And, you know, at the time I was 24 years old, and I'm like, well, Kobe Bryant, his number is 24. And I wanted to commemorate Kobe in some form of fashion for all the hard work he's done and for him being such a huge part of my upbringing. Even though I rooted against him, I respected the man. The man was a fantastic basketball player, and I had fear every single time this guy had the ball. I was like, man, this guy, he's a fantastic player. And I was always afraid when my team played against him. My team was whatever team LeBron James was on, right? So I thought, you know what? I really want to commemorate Kobe for who he is and what he's done. And I really started to develop a hardcore respect for him going into adulthood. So I decided to run a marathon to commemorate Kobe and run an extra mile to really honor him in the right way. Because Kobe Bryant went the extra mile when it came to being a fantastic basketball player. He went many extra miles, as a matter of fact. And I wanted to run 27.2 miles in order to really firmly commemorate Kobe Bryant. And I hate running. I really hate running so much. Nothing's fun about running to me. It's like you're by yourself. It's a 100% mental sport, and you're battling against yourself the entire time. You want to walk. It requires you to just like have a grip on your mind, and it sucks the entire way through. It's not like sometimes you're good. It's like the whole time is like, when am I going to be done with this? I don't know if you're anything like me. Some people are crazy and they actually enjoy running. That's definitely not. I'm definitely not one of those people. So I thought, you know what? In order to of Kobe Bryant, I'm gonna develop some mental toughness by running, and I'm gonna run a marathon, run that extra mile. And I trained in the summer, the death of heat, like 109 degrees outside. I would strategically ask Alexa in the kitchen. I would ask her questions like, hey, what's the weather today? And she would say, the weather today, warning, excessive heat warning leading until tomorrow evening. Like, we're going to have temperatures as high as 113 degrees and or like 109 degrees, and or if you're from the not from the US, like something around 43 degrees Celsius, right? And that's hot. That's hot as hell. And I'll strategically go and run at the time where it was at its peak, the hottest it was in the day, because I wanted to develop that mental toughness. Kobe Bryant would do the same thing. You can watch a video on YouTube where Tim Grover is his one of his trainers was being interviewed by GQ, and they're talking about Kobe Bryant in the Olympics. Excuse me. And Kobe Bryant, when he was training for the Olympics and they were in Las Vegas, Kobe actually wanted to start taking up cycling. And they had Nike send him over some bikes, and Kobe's like, we're gonna wake up and we're gonna start cycling at 4 a.m. So they would be out and just on the road 4 o'clock in the morning. And then what Kobe would do is he would strategically wait until it was the hottest part of the day in Las Vegas in the desert to ride all the way back. And I thought, much respect. I want to run when it's super freaking hot to really pay my respects. And I did that. And I did that many, many, many times over the summer. I went for many runs where it was super hot. And there was times where I'd be running and I'd be towards the end of my run and I'd be so exhausted because I got the heat exhaustion. And then I'm having this battle with fear, saying, like, I'm talking to myself thinking, Did I eat? I mean, did I drink enough water? Am I hydrated enough? Am I gonna make it? The sun is beating down on me. It's hot. My lungs are on fire. And I want to quit so bad. I want to start walking. And I tell myself, I'm not going to walk. I'm not going to walk. But then my fear in my brain is saying, dude, you might pass out. And I say to myself, I say, if I pass out, then I pass out. I hope somebody drives by and calls the police because I'm not going to walk. It got really crazy where I fully accepted death. I thought I would rather die than to walk. That's how much I believed in my own purpose. And for a while I never understood why the Japanese would, when it came to Pearl Harbor, why the suicide bombers would kill themselves. And I completely understand it now. Death before dishonor, to die with a purpose. And that's not just the one time that's happened. That's happened several times over the course of my marathon training while I'm running in the death of heat. It's hot as hell. And I don't know if I'm going to make it to my finish line, but I do each and every single time. Every time I'm on those runs, I have those same thoughts. And I always tell myself, well, I hope somebody finds my body. I hope somebody gets to me before I actually die. Real talk. I put myself in some crazy states for this running. Now, I decided to run my marathon on the last day of me being 24 years old to really put a firm stamp on how hard I worked while I was 24 years old. So it wasn't an official race. I didn't register for a race. I was like, I'm just going to go to the park that is about a mile loop. It's a little bit more than a mile loop. And I'm going to run that. I'm going to use my Nike app to track the entire race, and I'm going to run 27.2 miles. 26.2 is a regular marathon. The extra mile is 27.2. Family gets me some balloons, and it was actually really cool. I wasn't expecting the kind of support that I got from my family, and they even put up stoicism quotes around the park. And I was actually talking to my oldest sister, and she was saying, I can remember that one black guy who's bald and runs. I can't remember his name. She couldn't remember David Goggins' name. She was going to put up signs of him as well. I think that would have been like just next level. Like, oh my God, they put up signs of David Goggins. I would have probably just passed out from happiness. So last day of being 24, I show up to the park and I'm like, doing my thing. I'm like, all right, I got to find the signs, and I'm going to run this marathon on my own. And I'm going to run the marathon at 8:24 in the morning, because Kobe's first number was 8. His number that he retired with was 24. So I'm running around, and you can actually watch the entire video of me doing the marathon. I'm not going to walk you through my thought process and how difficult it was. And I almost literally started uncontrollably crying. Like, there was one point where it was so painful while I was on my run, where I I almost just by like reflex. You know how when like a doctor hits your knee, and then like your knee just like kind of pops up like that? It felt like that. Like where it's just I was just gonna start crying, and I couldn't stop it. But I didn't, and I want to be honest, I actually wanted to. I didn't want to hold that in. I'm like, this fucking sucks. I'm like crying. I'm like, I'm about to cry. Like, literally, I'm like on the verge. Like my face like kind of tenses up, like that crying face you make. And but it doesn't come. The crying doesn't come. So long story short, I hit the 26.2 miles. I'm like, all right, I'm almost there. I just got my last mile, and I'm dead. I'm exhausted, and I'm using my Nike app, and then it's like, all right, time 27 miles. I'm like, all right, cool. I got 0.2, but I have no idea how much 0.2 is on, like, as far as distance. So I look in the distance. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna assume that pole, that landmark over there, is going to be a little bit past, the 0.2. So I'm running, and I'm like so ready to be done with this damn marathon. And I passed the pole. I stopped the time. I walk. When I don't walk, I actually like go and like kind of stumble my last bit of my run onto this grass, and I take off my fanny pack, and I just collapse on the grass. And my face is facing towards the sky, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm groaning. My legs are hurting. My hips are hurting. Quads are on fire, just complete exhaustion. And I look at my Nike app, and I see 27.17 miles, and immediately I'm dissatisfied. I'm like, fuck, fuck, I didn't do the point two. What fuck? And I'm just like, no, it's okay, man. You still ran the marathon. Yeah, it's all right. And I'm like trying to justify. I'm like, it's okay. I'm like, no, it's not. Like you didn't do the point. Like you didn't finish it. You did. And I'm not feeling good because I'm in excruciating pain. My legs are just demolished, and at the same time, I'm not satisfied. I feel like I didn't even complete it, and I already stopped the run, so I can't just like unstop it, right, and resume. And I get up probably like 5 to 10 minutes later, and I have Bambi legs, and there's two guys playing basketball. I want to ask if they can just like please help me to my car, but I don't. I walk to my car, and I'm in there, and I'm like moving, and I'm antsy, and I can't stop. I'm like, oh my god, I don't know what the hell's going on. I can't process what the hell just happened. I'm in great pain. I want to cry so bad. Like, I cut all that stuff out in the last video because I was actually pretty embarrassed to share that kind of stuff because it was just it was just a lot of whining. It was hard. It was like one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do in my life. Called my oldest sister. My oldest sister came to pick me up, and I was in my car. I couldn't drive, and she came to pick me up and takes me home. And she turns on the jacuzzi, and I get into the backyard, and I'm lying on the couch in the backyard, and I'm shivering. I'm so cold, and I like put on some sweats and a sweater, and I'm like on there shivering, just like waiting for this jacuzzi to warm up. It takes about 30 minutes for it to warm up, and I get in there. Long story short, next day's my birthday, right? I turned 25 years old, and I go into what's called a sensory deprivation tank, also known as a float tank, where you're in salt water that's the same temperature as your skin. You can't, there's no music, there's no visuals, nothing. You're like in this dark closet with in salt water where so you float, and it's designed to like deprive you of all your senses. So you don't have to think about anything else or your immediate environment. You can really sink into your thoughts. And I was in there, and I was just thinking, dude, you're not like I was gonna be in there. I was hoping that I can be able to justify myself and make myself feel better that I ran the 27.2 miles. Like I made it for it some other way through, whether it was the warm up or the walk back to the car. And no matter what justification I try to come up with, I couldn't let myself off the hook. I just felt like no, like it. No matter what excuse you have, it still says 27.17. And if like that 0.03, that's like 10, 20 steps. That's almost nothing. And I'm extremely upset that I didn't finish it. And I just made the decision. I said, fuck this. I'm going to run this again. I got to do it again. I got to finish what I started. I'm going to rerun the marathon, but this time I'm going to sign up for an official race. I'm not just going to run it by myself at the park because I want a medal. Those marathon medals look super baller. So I'm going to run an official marathon, and I'm going to run that extra mile again. And this time I'm going to do it right because I actually just freeballed the entire marathon, the training process. I was like, well, I'm just going to run about 4 to 6 miles, per run. And I'll probably run like 4 times a week. Apparently I'm supposed to be putting on a lot more in terms of running. Maybe that's why I got so demolished. My body was like, "What the hell did you just do?" You just feel like got ran over by a train. Like like a train just ran over the bottom half of my body, and I still had all the senses in the bottom of half of my body, and I got a pretty decent time. I came in at 3 hours and 14 minutes. If you want to just calculate the time for my marathon without the extra mile. With the extra mile, I came in at 3 hours and 21 minutes. So this time I'm going to run an official race. I'm going to run that extra mile. I'm going to hire myself a coach, and I'm going to really go in with the full intention to qualify for the Boston Marathon, which is like the holy grail of marathons. And it's, you have to have like a 3 hour time, right? I think it's like you have to come in less than 3 hours to qualify for Boston. If I qualify for Boston, I'm going to run Boston. If I don't qualify for Boston, whatever. I just want to finish what I started, and then that's it. Complete what I intended to do. So I'm going to be doing that later next year I still have a lot of business stuff I'm been working on, so don't have time to really put my focus towards running the marathon right now, which is all right. No problem. I'll run it later on in the year next year. But just a couple, key points there is just whatever it is, whatever project you're working on and you maybe feel like it's incomplete, go back and do it, complete it. Start to adopt that identity that you're a person that follows through with the things that you say you're going to do, because that is what's going to raise your self-esteem. And when you hold yourself to that higher standard, I mean, that's what people look for in leaders. So um, thanks for watching this whole video. If you watched the whole thing, I'm excited for what's to come. Thank you for watching. Some of my family think I'm crazy, and some of my friends are like, "Dude, I much respect. That's actually really cool." And it doesn't matter what anyone thinks. To be honest with you, I initially just did this for myself, but it seems like a lot of people are taking interest in it, so might as well talk a little bit more about this and keep you updated with the journey. And hopefully, we can get to the point where we qualify for the Boston Marathon and we can get that ran and add that in terms of the books of accomplishments, and we'll take things from there. We'll see what happens from there, see who I meet, see what decisions that I make, and it could be one of the best decisions that ever happened to me. One thing that I've noticed about life is sometimes my perceived setbacks in the moment can actually come back and be some of the best things that ever happened to me my entire life, and it's because of a couple of setbacks that I was not happy with, but it led to something amazing. So I see this common theme over and over and over and over again. I've had the biggest blessing to go through so much discomfort, in my life, especially early on in my life, where I have this wealth of experience in terms of dealing with so many different discomforts and learning and navigating my way through it. And you might hear my nephew in the background there, but like that pain, discomfort, those setbacks are the best things that ever happened to me. And I just look at it as that, like, well, here's another thing that's going to lead to some awesome adventures, going to lead to some awesome relationships, going to lead to some awesome experiences. And I'm excited. So if you're excited to learn more and hear more about this journey, you can always check out my podcast, CEO Life, on Spotify, and also hit that subscribe button to my YouTube channel so you get notified every single time I drop a new video. And I'm going to do a lot more documentation of the actual marathon journey on my podcast, though. So appreciate you watching. Catch you later. Make it a great day.